Hey everyone, it's SJ, and today I'm at the CSA Card Show in Chantilly, Virginia. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the show and then cover what I purchased. This is one of the largest shows in the DC area and focuses on sports cards, but there's a fair amount of Pokémon and other card games as well. I ended up going at 9 o'clock in the morning right as the doors opened, and it was actually pretty quiet, but it picked up towards the afternoon. Here we see a whole bunch of supplies and a mix of vintage and modern sports cards, but we'll see a whole bunch of other stuff as well. It was $20 to get in the door on Saturday. However, if you did pre-sales online, it was only $15. There were a whole bunch of tables with sets of vintage baseball cards and a whole bunch of other stuff where you could just sit down and look through. They also had tons of dollar boxes and a lot of other good opportunities. For these shows, I always come in with a particular set of cards that I'm looking for. Number one, to not spend too much money, but number two, it helps focus my attention on things. I also saw a whole bunch of these starting lineup guys. Remember those? Those were so big in the 90s, but they were selling for like 10, 15 bucks. Here we had a whole bunch of sealed product, and Optic 2023 football was the big thing. Everyone was looking for that, or at least looking for good deals here. So the particular cards I was looking for were Time Vault and Unlimited cards for Magic the Gathering, and then vintage Pokemon cards from the Gym Challenge, Gym Heroes era, and the Neo Genesis era. Sports cards wise, I'm still really just looking for Ken Griffey Jr. and possibly Shohei Ohtani. Good deals on that is what I'm looking for. The vintage cards are cool, I just don't know anything about them. I did buy something from this case. It was not in the list of things I mentioned, so try to guess what it was. Here, this seller had a whole bunch of really cool cards. They had a PSA 10 Griffey for $2,000. They had a Jordan rookie card for $2,300. Some really cool cards, but definitely outside of my price range. Here, there was a bunch of interesting cards. This was the only place I saw unlimited cards, so I did pick up some of these. He had some other cards. The prices were a little high, but it's alright. Here, this guy had a New Yorker version of Pokemon, which was just so cool. I've never seen that before. It was like 230 bucks. Most of the sellers had more modern Pokemon, especially since alt-art cards and graded alt-art cards are going through the roof right now. Personally, I'm not too interested in modern cards or modern graded Pokemon cards. I was just looking for vintage Pokemon. And there was a good selection, but prices were all over the place. Generally reasonable or pretty fair, but some prices were just way too high for what they were selling for. Particularly for sellers that were marking things at near mint prices, but the cards were clearly played. That's something that is just a pet peeve of mine. Only a few vendors did that. Most people that sell here are pretty good about it. I did pick up something from this case as well. See if you could guess what it is. A lot of good options here. The seller was very nice. Here there were a whole bunch of really cool White Schwartz cards. For instance, the Disney 100 cards. You don't see that too often, so I figured I'd showcase it. There was an unlimited, 2 unlimited, and 1 revised Soul Ring. They were selling for about 250 bucks. Here was a showcase of just Shohei Ohtani's, which I am a very big proponent of. All of his cards are on sale now after that scandal with his interpreter. He ended up not doing anything wrong, so I think he's still a very good player and somebody that I think has a great future. This was the coolest case though. There was a Mickey Mantle for $100,000. That is incredibly expensive. But this was the CSA Card Show at the Dulles Expo Center. Let's go see what I purchased. The first thing I purchased was this Kabutops and Zapdos. It was $10 for both of them, and I figured why not. They're in pretty play condition, but I always love vintage Pokemon cards. I'll throw these in the binder I use to sell at other card shows, so I figured a nice little pickup like this is always good. So that was the first thing I purchased. Next up, we have a Ho-Oh from Neo Revelations. I saw this card. It was marked at $125. I got it for $100. It was said to be near mint, but I would say this is light play. There's some edge wear on the corners, and then there's also some scratches on the hollow you can see over here. So it's a pretty good deal. I'm not complaining. It's going in my collection and just going to stay in my Neo Revelation set. Next up, we have a couple of unlimited cards. We got a Wrath of God, Balance, and Icy Manipulator. This was $225 for all of them. I do think I overpaid a little bit, but it's alright. I'll explain later. In case you don't know how to identify a unlimited versus revised card, the left-hand side is unlimited and the right-hand side is revised, and you can see that there's a lot more padding between or space between the illustrator's name, and then there's also a double border on the unlimited card, so you can see there's the black border on the revised card and then a larger border with another line in it, and I'll zoom in here, but you can see that there's a solid border on revised and then like a double border on your unlimited card. So there's other ways to tell. Obviously the color and the text is different, but just with the illustrator name and the border, you can pretty much immediately tell that you have an unlimited card versus a revised card. This is pretty important because there's a huge price difference between these two. As I was saying earlier, I do think I overpaid a little bit for these. At $225 in these conditions, it's not the best deal. So all of these are moderately played. The Balance, I would say, is heavily played because it has a pretty big smudge on it on the back left-hand corner. The Icy Manipulator is also pretty heavy played as well. So unfortunately, it wasn't the best deal. These are going to just stay in my collection though, and I have a future video coming out on Unlimited, so I really don't mind. And if I were to buy these on eBay, I would probably spend $180, but then you have taxes and shipping, so in the end it roughly equals the same. Plus, at a card show, the people also have to pay for the table. At Chantilly, the table was about $500 for the weekend, so those were very expensive, and it's ultimately fine. So these are cool cards though, I still like them. So those were the unlimited pickups I found. Unfortunately, no time faults. The next one though is my favorite purchase. This is my absolute favorite game of all time, and I saw this in the case that I showed earlier, and this is a pretty complete set. This is, it has the manual, it has the sleeve, the game works, the box is in good condition. It's just not sealed, but that's fine because I am just going to have this on display forever. I love this game. I used to play it as a kid all the time. I still play it nowadays, and it is a fantastic pickup. Initially we were talking about $80, and then he looked up the price and said it had gone up, so then he said $85, and then I decided just to give him $90 to be fair. So this was $90, and I'm very happy with this. Once again, I'm not going to flip this or anything. I just wanted this for my collection because I love this game and I rarely see this. And having the manual is amazing because I don't think I've ever gone through the manual. And seeing this was just so cool. Directions were easy to pick up back then. And the manuals were really feature rich and full of information. When I was playing this, I didn't know how to read. So I would have just looked at the pictures, kind of like I'm doing now anyway. And it was just such a cool find. So this was actually my favorite purchase of the whole show, and it has nothing to do with sports cards or collectibles in general. So it was just such a cool find, and I'm very happy with this. Ultimately, and I'll still cover the rest of this, I'll take it out of the box and whatnot, but the card show was good. I was quite surprised how few Magic card vendors there were. There was actually really only like 2 or 3, and those were all the unlimited cards I saw. I was hoping to find a Time Vault because that's a card I've been looking for a while, but unfortunately did not see one at all. And this is also the wrong venue for it. I'd say about 80% of the cards there are sports cards mixed between vintage and modern, and the rest is primarily Pokemon. There was a fair amount of One Piece. There was absolutely no Yu-Gi-Oh! And very little Magic. So I found that pretty interesting. It was good to see. It was a good experience. But if you want Magic cards, unfortunately you gotta go to another show. This was my purchase at the CSA Card Show in Chantilly, Virginia. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I love the Super Mario Brothers. That's just such a good purchase. But as always, please like and subscribe. It really does help, and I really appreciate the support. And as always, thank you for watching.